Welcome to the Magical Motherhood podcast, where we gather as mothers who are actively healing our witch wound and are devoted to celebrating diversity while nurturing ourselves, each other, our families, and you.
I'm Ariana Mogg, human resource extraordinaire by day, human design embodiment coach by night, pop culture obsessed nerd, and West Indian green witch 24/7.
Hello, I'm Halleck Hannah, aka the Bougie Hoodoo, aka your Mississippi Mystic, and aka the Soccer Mom Sorceress. I use my head, my heart, and my hands to make magic that heals and inspires my family, my friends, and the collective.
I'm Karen Lepage, sewing fairy godmother, connection weaver, possibility amplifier, spiritual modality dilettante, and professional pattern maker, focused on healing through making and expanding inclusivity in every direction, whether that's in my work, my community, or in my own heart.
Erica Cullum here, a 21st century witch/entrepreneur practicing my craft through intuitive coaching and consulting at my biz Collective Commons, while also homeschooling and advocating for justice on all fronts.
This week's episode is on curating your village. We welcome you to join our grounding opening oracle card ritual, and then we'll move right into sharing all of our tips, mini spells, victories, lamentations, but most especially and importantly, our advice about how to call in loving people and find healing and supportive spaces that respect your unique style of magical mothering. And of course, as always, every week, and we hope you get used to it, we'll end our episode with a special tarot card message just for our magical moms to give you inspiration, insight, and loving support during your week. Welcome to Magical Motherhood. And I remember thinking, like, in just the moment that I passed him, he looked like a little boy. Like, who am I? Where am I? I don't know what's going on. I could have been high. I don't know. But I remember thinking, some of these marriages aren't going to make it. I was like, because some people, when we joke about, like, this is not what they signed up for, they really didn't sign it. They really didn't. Like, their whole relationship depends upon, or it was established with, it's actually quite healthy. Two individual people, right? Like living their lives in a loving relationship. Like, we don't need to be in each other's face all the time. Yeah. Like, it's okay. We started by being gone like 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. And I remember thinking, like, I hope we all make it through this all right. Because, this isn't... Yeah. You're right. Like, nobody signed up for this. But go ahead, Erica. I think I can.
Oh, no. It's just, there's this interesting phenomenon, too. I think especially that has been, I think some people maybe always had this, but especially during, this like lockdown pandemic time of like, we try to make these singular people be like everything for us, right? Because we're just here with these one people. And it's not supposed to work like that. We're supposed to have a whole village, but we're trying to put so many roles into the limited people that we're able to be around. So that's tough. It's tough all over.
Oh, what a wonderful segue into today's topic.
We got there. We got there so quickly. We didn't even know.
Lynn nailed it.
What are you pulling for us today,
Q? Can I?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. 5 of Pentacles. Pain, discomfort, feeling, lack, poverty. When I see this, I almost always think, actual physical suffering, like actual hurt, pain, exposure to the elements, and also being kind of wrapped in this grip of, again, that, I hate saying lack mentality the way I hate saying like manifestation and law of attraction these days, but truly that's what it is. Like, so caught up in the hurt, pain, the cycle of physical pain, being differently abled, feeling and sitting in and just kind of stuck in, our pain, our discomfort, our, feeling like there's not enough, when actually if we could, find some clarity and some peace, or even just take a moment, like a beat, help is actually close at hand, right? Like that's what, the warm church with like the light that's literally like, this is not a really fancy card. This is just my teaching deck. This is a radiant Rider-Waite. But somehow even in this like simple illustration, you almost can feel the warmth and light coming from inside like this, this building that I'm sure is supposed to resemble, it's supposed to be a church or like a cathedral. And what it reminds us like is, not only is this the toughest part, which is sometimes the good news, right? Like, okay, you're in the hardest part. Like you're in the hardest part. What we have to do is find you a moment of rest and respite, like in that eye of the hurricane of whatever it is you're going through, so that you can push forward and get to a 6. And so the positive or the beneficial methods are twofold. One, that this is the toughest part. This is as hard as it's going to get. It's not going to get much worse than this, right? Like the 5s are the Rubicon, right? Like the crucible, like you just got to get through it. And number 2, the good news is that help is close at hand. It's close by. You just need a moment of peace so that you can access it and figure out where it is and orient yourself so you can move towards it. And so that's what we have today. 5 of Pentacles. I can't wait to see how this comes up in our conversation today. So that's what we have to open.
Oh, immediately I am just taken aback by how clear that message as you were reading that description came up for me. For instance, so we're talking about community today, and one of my like litmus tests is to see like what my community cares about. And we think about what's currently going on, current events. Like if I can't have those conversations about the way I'm feeling, the way I want to help, the actions that I expect my inner circle to be taking, it's a red flag. Like that's a no for me. Like do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like we are not the same in a way that I need us to be on the same page about this. So that very much speaks to just like, I don't know. It's one of my deal breakers.
I feel that. And I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but I feel like especially over the past year or two, the things that have been happening in the world have made it very easy to see where some people that maybe we thought we're aligned or we were on the same page, where it's like, oh, actually, no, we are not. There have been some big issues coming up, and two, right? Like I don't like to put too much weight into social media, but sometimes when you see people that you thought were really cool, and then you see them saying whatever their piece is, and you're like, oh, yeah, no, wait, actually, maybe we need to reevaluate how we interact now.
Now, last year in July, my friend group, my very close friend group, just fractured for these reasons.
Yeah.
Mine fractured around, you're right. It was July of last year, and it was after the tragic murder of George Floyd. And I just decided, I'm not tiptoeing around anything anymore. Like if we're friends, like this is who I am. And I'm also with Erica too, I'm just not interested in superficial freaking conversation. Like I'm just not, I can do it, and there are going to be times when I have to do it, like either for work or some social. But if we're talking about like our friend circles and our communities, if we can't jump right into, girl, how are you today? Girl, like this, that, and then this. Like, I don't mean to like bomb it all over you, but what do you want to get into first? Or girl, how are you? Or, I can feel, or I can tell like something's up. My husband on this like conversation, he had a conversation with another friend, and he's lucky that he has friends that are like this, because there's so many guys that are like around here that are golf bags, like, and no shade to golf if that's your thing and your passion plays, but that's what they are. They're just like human, walking, talking, freaking golf bags. But he actually has friends that are like, dude, no, what's up? Nah, dude, really, what's up? You can talk to me, player. Like, I love you. Like, what's up? Like, he's actually got friends like that, which is so cool. And the other day he was like, Brian kept like asking me like, what's up with me? What's wrong with me? I was like, that's because he's your friend and he knows something's wrong with you. I was like, why are we playing? Like, that's not what friendship is. Like, be lucky that you're, a man or a male oriented person that has this.
Right. And like, talk to him. Don't only talk to me. We need a diversity. Well, I mean, yeah, that too.
I see your reaction there. But they need a diversity of input, just like we do, right? To get reflections back from different mirrors, not just one, because then we're only seeing one dimension of ourselves.
Absolutely. And I don't want to say this is a male or female thing, but I know like my husband and I work very differently in that, like, I can talk to people online all day. And I mean, it's not the same as talking. It's not the same as if I were sitting around a table having tea with all of you right now. Right. But it works. Whereas, you know, my husband, like he can't do Zoom. Like he's like, I need to be right there with somebody having a conversation, usually with a beer, or a cup of coffee. Like, you know, like it's the digital connection is just tougher, I think, for some people. And that's made it, you know, a little bit more challenging to have some of those conversations. Especially, I think, when we're talking about this village, like, I mean, we have like a local village, right? But a lot of our village is global. I mean, my husband's from England. His best friends are still in England. His parents are in England. I mean, people move now. My best friends are all over the country. Like we can't just, you know, like pop over there and have dinner. So, you know, we've been trying that. We've had dinner parties where we put Zoom, you know, the laptop in the middle of the table and everyone's having dinner and we're doing that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's definitely different and it's hard. I feel like it's been a challenge to get that variety of, you know, your people, quality time with your people this past, you know, time. And it's clearly, at least the way things are looking, it's going to be like that for a little bit longer. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do about that? Like, you know, my husband's just like, yeah, we'll just wait. I'm like, we can't wait. Like, we gotta do something else right now. we gotta figure out something else in the meantime.
That's so true. And I think it was Q. I think it was you who said it. We don't have time for superficial conversations. And I've been thinking about that a lot recently because as a mom, your clock is already divided and already splintered up into so many different things. Like I do not have the capacity nor the willpower or interest to have a watered down conversation with someone when I want to go below the surface. And when you think about like, who gets our long weekend where we go visit like a friend that's like one of our best friends that doesn't live within close proximity, or where do we want to spend our time, or what phone call or what Zoom or all of those things, like it's eating away at your most precious resource. And if I need something, like it has to go below surface level. Like I just can't. And those conversations have been just like energy vampire lately. So I think like being really discerning about your village and not thinking you need to have XYZ person just because they're around is so crucial.
And nobody's around.
Right. Like, that's funny. Even with the Delta variant, everybody's gone. Like, I'm like, wow, y'all are all gone. We had it wasn't a tense conversation, but I swear there's something powerful about really speaking your truth from a position of confidence that I got to be honest, like I wasn't like this when I was first married, way too young at like 22, 23. But he asked, he's like, are we just never going to have dinner parties like ever again? And I was like, first of all, that's really hyperbolic. And like, that's really like never again. Like just because, you know, the past couple of months, I'm just not freaking interested because y'all know me. You know, I'm the Black girl from Mississippi. Like dinner is not just dinner. Like even when I do a dinner with like 4 components, I have been brining something for like a day and a half. I had to make the pie freaking in advance. Like, thank God I finally relented and I found a good organic like pie crust. So I don't have to like drive myself crazy making pie crust. But like, it's an ordeal, and I'm not going through a day and a half of preparation because that's what it takes. It takes me a day, and I do it all myself. Like the girls are 12 and 17. They could just care less, you know, like they just want to, and it's not worth me fighting with them or arguing with me can you please help mommy? Can you do this? Can you do that? My husband, bless his heart. Like when you were saying, Erica, like, you know, my partner, like he cooks, he cleans, he does laundry, like mine does laundry. And like handles the garbage as far as I'm concerned, like, yay. But he can't cook, like he doesn't really cook. He's like the baby of his 6 older sisters. He just never learned. And so I remember just having to sit and say, no, the couple that we do this for, or the family we do this for, they've got to be like our buddies. They got to be like top 5. I'm not doing this just because you saw Joe down at the depot and said, yeah, come on over for dinner. Like, I'm not doing that. It's got to be I got to like everybody in the family. I got to like the couple. I got to want to know like what it is they've been doing over the past couple months. The kids, the kids have to like the other kids for us to have this whole experience, because it takes a day and a half out of my life. I was like, so I'm not doing it unless it's like, those friends that are really, really like integral to the foundation of our, like they're really important to us as a family, and that we really love and care deeply about, and that we're kind of on this like raising these kids, being friends together, journey together. It's not just for random people that we're curious about, or that are curious about us. We can go to a restaurant. I was like, we can go down to the cafe and get together. Yeah. But yeah, y'all don't get
I think that discernment piece is like so valid. It's definitely been one of those things that I think we've gotten better at, because I used to I say yes to everything. I was like, yeah, we'll go here, we'll do this, we'll do that. And in the past year and a half, like we can't do that. And so like we just have to be more discerning with our time. Like, okay, who are we really wanting to spend time with and talk to? But like what you just mentioned, like as you get as your family grows, like I find it a little bit more challenging, right? To find like the whole family, like our whole family jives with this whole family, right? Like, because the kids get along, the parents get along, like that's a special kind of magic, because it doesn't always, my kid has friends where like, that's great. She loves it. She's got her best friends that she loves, but I don't necessarily have anything in common with that kid's parents, like I don't want to invite all of them over, or it's hard sometimes to find like the two whole units that like come together.
And I know that that's unique, and it's not easy. And you're right. We've had friendships where we love the parents and it's awesome getting together and going on vacation together. But man, one of those kids falls out with each other. Like it's not worth it. Like it's not worth it. Or we can have them over, but the 12-year-old goes into the bedroom for like 2 hours, or, or she doesn't want this kid that for whatever reason did something to her at school that she's a little Scorpio. Like I'm not going to say she holds a grudge, but she remembers, and she has decided who she does and want in her personal space. And it is tough. But that's also when, like a family is, is special. Or if we can just get together with just the couples and the kids are off doing their own thing, that's cool. But I spent so much time, and I guess we can talk about this, but when the kids were first born, like I spent so much time and energy with people that I had nothing in common with, because I thought this is the way it works. I thought this is what happens. This is what social life is now. You make friends based on who your friends are friends with at school, or with the PTA mafia kind of, or parent association structure at school. I'm sad when I think about how much time I spent doing stuff like that, like years ago. It's okay. It was part of a learning process, but man, for a few years I did that.
It's definitely part of the process. And I think, like, as we're talking about, you're building your village, right? Like, it is not set in stone. Like, people come and people go. Sometimes we outgrow people. Sometimes new people come in. It is, it's one of those things that it's like, there's nothing finite about it. I would have said, if you would have talked to me 2 years ago, I would have been like, my village is bomb. Like, I have the best village, right? And then just time and different pressures or different things happening. And you're like, oh, actually, some of these people, like, not the people that I need in my village. Then we found some other people. These people actually like really stepped up. It's just constantly evolving.
Karen, what are you, if we were advising the parental curious, like people that are either about to start a mothering journey. Because I don't even know if is it crazy to be like, how do you get your tribe together? But if you could offer like any advice, like what would it, because this is awesome. And I also, obviously we want to hear what, these are Erica and Ariana, because they got little bitties. What would you advise? Like, I don't know if I could have taken any advice or I was in a place to take advice, but like, what would the advice be for getting your village together in preparation for this mama journey?
Oh, that's a good question. I was the first of my friends to have a baby. I was the only of my friends to have actually that friend group. I am the only one still who had a child. And that child is now almost 24. But it's funny, even back then, it was the beginning of the social internet, and there was a group of people on this website called Stork Site. To tell you how long ago this was, like we broke off from Stork Site and made our own GeoCities page. So like that's real like Web 1.0 kind of stuff. And had a forum where we talked to each other. But there were like 50 moms or want to be moms or moms to be whose children were due in November of 1997. So it was November moms. And some of us are still talking to each other. I mean, it's moved digital forums, but we met in person. We, like most of us, flew to Washington, D.C. with our toddlers to meet each other. And that was back when like, oh, everyone you meet on the internet's an axe murderer. Even back then, I had to find my community online because I didn't know anybody with children. And I am still friends with my friends who didn't have children at that time. Many of them. And it's important, though, to have somebody alongside who's going through a similar journey. It's also important to stay yourself and stay in contact with the people who are not going on the journey and showing them who you are as you go so they don't just think you disappeared into this hole of motherhood. Or maybe so that you don't disappear into the hole, the well, dive deep and only deep into the well. We need to come up for air. So, yeah, I guess my advice is to look wherever you can find them. When you resonate with someone, communicate with them. Sometimes you find the best people, I think you find doing things that you normally would do. And they also happen to be on a parenting journey. Like when, in the after time, someday take a pottery class or a cooking class or teach one. And just... or talk about human design or all the weirdest possible thing that you're interested in, like collect people around that. But I'm an Aquarius rising, so I'm like, be loud and proud and weird and the people will come. So that's it. I guess maybe also what I wish I would have known at the time would be to, I guess not dim your light. Your motherhood light is a similar light that reflects. You gotta use it. You gotta not be the kind of mom that nobody knows, right? We're two people. We and our children are two people, and then also a partnership. If you are partnered, like that, there are three people all of a sudden in this triangle, and there needs to be some kind of balance. And the relationships are important inside the unit, and then also think about the fractal you're building by. I don't think it has to be like two triangles facing each other. I think that we can build a web, one parent's friend, one other parent's friend, one child, two children who get along together, and we just accommodate that. We don't have to make the big Southern dinner for everybody. And yet these other relationships, I don't need to be friends with my kids' moms. That was a hard one to learn. I learned it on the fourth kid. But yeah, I don't need to have a contentious relationship with them, but the kid can spend the night if I don't like the mom, as long as we communicate ahead of time, like what the expectations are. And I mean, don't like who do I not like? Honestly, racists. My kid's not going to be a friend with a racist. So I guess, maybe I weed them out that way. again, it's like that. Be as you can be. And if the other kid's mom is like, I don't want you staying at that weird lady's house, fine. That's my protection shield. But yeah, really nurturing individual relationships as well as family relationships is, I think, the village doesn't have to look like it might have looked when we were proximity based only. Hope that's not a disappointing answer, but yeah, I'm a tech mom.
Erica and Ariana, tell us about your villages, like with your honey bunnies. What is it like growing your village in the, in the I'm not going to say the early 2000s, because technically I was doing it in the early 2000s, but in the space that you all now are with littles, what is it like?
I was going to say, one, I'm looking forward to a time when my child is old enough that she can just kind of go to things on her own and I don't have to like be there for it and expected to talk to the other moms all day. We actually used to go to this thing called Free Forest School, where you let your kids run around through the woods, and that was great. And I didn't talk to like any of the moms. Like I was always there looking like a severe hot mess, like because it was cold. It was like January. It was cold. It was raining. I had on like layers of sweatpants and the most ridiculous clothes. I didn't care. I didn't talk to anyone. Like my kid was just running through the woods. I was like, cool. But I think like what you were saying, Karen, is true. Like, as much as I love like when we have families, and we have some really great families. I mean, one of our best friends, we met this family, because I had put in a vegan Facebook group that I had breast milk to donate if anyone needed breast milk. And so someone took me up on that. She had a preemie baby and, was trying to keep her well fed, and so she came over and picked it up, and like we became like just best friends with this family, and her daughter's 8 months younger than ours. Like awesome. And so that's really great, like when we have those families that we can all hang out with, because our family likes to be together all the time. We like to do everything together. But I do think that there's something too about, the people that we had in our lives before we had kids. I mean, some of our other best friends, like they are not having children, and I love that. And I love having them to be a part of our kids' life. They had a dog that died recently, and, they were like, what do you want us to say to Emmy about, this or whatever? I was like, whatever you want to say. I was like, you are part of our village, and that's because we trust you with our kid, and she needs more than just our take on what this is like or what this means. So I was like, you're in the village. You're allowed to speak freely with our child. And so I think, it doesn't necessarily have to be people that, are on the same path as you. They've got a lot of different interests as us, but I think at the end of the day, it's all about kind of like Ariana, what you were saying earlier, just people that we can talk about whatever it is that we have going on and be very honest and blunt about it. And they don't necessarily have to understand it, but they're just like, okay, yeah, I hear you. I get you. I see you. That's cool. So I think, our village is comprised of a whole slew of people. I mean, half of our friends don't ever want to have kids. That's cool. Like I said, Jeff and I met when we were touring, so we had a lot of people in the music industry, which is, cool. It's kind of one of those things, you pick up people all over the place. We went to some in the before times, some, vegan Easter egg hunts and stuff like that. We made friends there. My kid will make friends at the playground. We've met random people at the lake that we've become friends with. It's kind of like what Karen was saying, just doing the things that you do, and you find your people, and sometimes they stick around and sometimes they don't, but that's just part of it. How about you, Ari? How's your village looking these days?
That's wow. I just want to echo everything everyone said. Oh, and I so badly wish that we lived closer so that everyone could just help raise our kids, because I just love all of you. Yeah, I desperately want a hug as well. I was thinking about that answer or the initial question too, which is like, what would we tell people culminating a village? And everyone said it so perfectly. Because in my mind, I was thinking like, you absolutely have to lead with your values, just how like everyone else values like transparency. Like they want transparency because they want to know like where you're at. What are you into? Where can we relate on what touch points? And the more you dim that down, the harder it is to extract and the easier it is for you to forget and be disassociated with it, which is really sad. So I feel like some of the best advice that I could give to anyone, whether they are thinking about having kids or they're starting off on their journey, is plan with the end in mind. Like postpartum is forever. And you really want to think about like, who would I want to spend, a day and a half to cook for? And who would I trust, like delivering difficult news to my child? And who would I want, like my children, just to feel comfortable to be themselves around without having to sugarcoat anything? And similar to Erica, I say yes to way too much. It's something I'm working on. And what that looks like in our friend group is I want to give everyone a chance, and I want to see if everyone passes the coffee or tea test, right? Like, it's like, well, can we like hold a conversation at a coffee shop, and will I want to be separate from my family enough to want to do this with you on a regular basis or on any sort of cadence? And, it's been harder this year and a half. And I also feel like I'm less discerning, and my husband, who is a manifester, so he's like super discerning, like his presence just does that for him. The kids are really easy at this age. My oldest is 2.5. So for the most part, like give him a sandbox and he's happy, or truck and he's happy, or some play food, because then he can cook and then he's happy. So the kids are meshing well, and me and the mom are doing great. And then the dad and Eric will just be like, da, 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 like just dead as a doornail. So that's been a little hard, but lately I've been really pushing him to like hang out with his friends one-on-one. Like I can easily multitask and do the 2 babe thing. And then it gets me a lot of brownie points later where I can just like say and ask for whatever I want, and he can go off and hang out with one of his guy friends. So right now I feel like our community, there's only a handful of families that we would have them all together. Like we would invite the entire family over for a meal, or we would go on vacation with, or we would like carve out our sacred weekend time to hang out with them. But that's because I think we're just in the process of like plugging into each other individually still. So I look forward to those times where the kids can just like go off and do their thing, and I can have what I want out of my relationships, and Eric can get that as well. Because right now it's hard, like way across the board. I will say though, my parenting groups, or not my parenting, my pregnancy groups have found me some of the best friends in Oregon, like truly. And I think that's because I went through a set of midwives. So that already like kind of carves out a special population that's interested in that type of care, midwifery care. So that helped when it comes to like leading with your values and doing what you would normally want to be doing. Just the whole birthing experience, you meet a subset of people that are just like, oh, okay, we're aligned in this way. And then a major event comes and they show their true colors, and just like, and we are not aligned in other ways. So it is not a perfect system. It is certainly flawed. But I've gotten a couple really, really good friendships and really good mama buds that I would trust with my kid, which is the most important thing.
Trusting people with your kids. Trusting people with your kids.
Yeah. I don't know who I trust with my kids. But I was just thinking about like our shared values. And I think about like when our babies are young, and like the most important decision is whether you use cloth diapers or like disposable diapers, and like how it could be very easy to just not talk to anybody who uses disposable diapers, or vice versa, right? And those are the kinds of things that I try to encourage people to not focus on as much, because those years will be over and you don't know what is going on in their house. Like, you don't know if the husband refuses to wash poopy things, like that they need to go in the garbage, because that's just how they that's how it was at our house. So, of course, you have no idea about that kind of stuff, but it doesn't mean that you don't share different kinds of values. And here's where I see the real benefit of going deep right away on things that are important outside of the superficial. I mean, maybe it's not superficial if people use disposable versus cloth diapers, but that maybe doesn't lead you into a person's soul. So it's just something else to keep in mind. That was one example.
I did have to break off the friendship with the one mom, and this broke my heart because, didn't break it off. And that's back when I wasn't really as thoughtful and as intentional as I am about ending things as I am now, where I would have had some kind of conversation, or I would have tried to do something to at least with some honor and dignity, in the friendship with, with what it deserved. But the mom who was, our daughters were great friends. This is in the UK. And she was very spiritual in a very Christian way. And it was, I think I told y'all this story and our daughters were just the best of friends. They were so sweet. And I just remember the closest bonding moments, because she didn't really grow up with one day we'll talk about hair and hair magic and about Black women down south and this thing we freaking have about our kids and their hair, our daughters especially, and their hair. You could not have two pennies to rub together, but that baby's hair better be clean and combed through and presentable when they go out. And so, but she just did not have that gift of dealing with hair. And I did, I have 5 freaking sisters, and we have every possible type, texture of hair. I know how to, and when the triplets were born, because we're a blended family, so I have triplet sisters that are 20 years younger than me. Sundays were all about, after church, washing, conditioning, combing through, and getting their hair ready for the week. And when they got older, we'd have to flat iron it. So literally there'd be the older sisters with the triplets between our legs, and that was just our Sunday. So to say that I know hair. And so she was having trouble with her daughter's hair. And I was like, girl, bring that baby over here. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how we do this. Stop buying the super expensive conditioner, because you need lots of you need lots of it. And, we got to get it in here. This is how we comb it out. This is how we dry it. This is how we straighten it. So we bonded in that beautiful way. But I'll never forget the day I was like, girl, there's the new Whole Foods. It just opened up on the high street in Kensington. Let's go. And she's like, Helico, we cannot go there. And I have to ask that you not take Raina there, because they use feng shui there. There's idols there. I was like, idols? I was like, now feng shui, possibly. The store designers are probably doing something like that to make it a more holistic experience. But I was like, what idols are you talking about? There's a Buddha in aisle 3. I was like, first of all, how do you know there's a Buddha in aisle 3? And that's not an idol. What? What are we, what are we talking about? I must insist on this. I can't have that. And if you're going to be going there, we need to find something else to do with the girls. And I just remember thinking okay. And I'll never forget, I was one of those Twilight mom readers. Don't ask me what I was going through and why I was reading that book. But I was reading, actually, I can tell y'all about the Dark Night of the Soul that I was going through as a lonely mom in London and why I read that book. But Helico, vampires are demonic. These stories of witches and werewolves are demonic. This is bad for you. You think it's not. You think that you're just da-da-da-da-da, but this is a problem. Are you going to have these books around when Raina's over? And I remember thinking this is the end. That's too freaking bad, because it was beautiful for a second there. It was or is my I know. And I was not out of the broom closet at that time in my life. I was not out. Now I would be like, girl, everything no, this is just pablum, but the cool stuff is the vampire and the werewolf stuff. That's the cool stuff and the lore story. But I just remember being I was so bereft too, because I really depended on her. It was the UK, just being me with a husband that was traveling all the time for his work, raising those kids, so just wanting, and at that time something called mocha moms was kind of coming to the fore. This was like black moms that were mocha moms, and it was like and this was revolutionary for me because this was like black stay-at-home moms. There were no freaking black stay-at-home moms when I was growing up. Like everybody worked, so I was just in this, I was kind of paralyzed. It was an 8 of Swords like situation. Like I wasn't really paralyzed, but just that I was paralyzed by the ideas of the way I'm supposed to do it. And I was so sad because I'm like, there's no mocha moms here and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if anybody would want to start one. And if I were just back in the US, this would be so easy and it wasn't. But even now talking about this, I'm literally making a list of my tribe and like, and my village and who my village is now. And I'm so grateful for them. And even in London, when I was sad and lonely, there were 2 people that were awesome. This one dad that was my daughter's best friend and buddy, James. He was just this awesome, super cool, super chill dad. He was so freaking funny. He was just hilarious. He was the guy you'd always want to sit next to. He and Josh got along great. We still see them. We'll hang out when we go back to see each other. And my friend Sangeeta, who was another expat mom, but she married a Brit. And I'll never forget, like 3 weeks after we met at the Cherry Tree, that was the first little preschool that our kids went to. She finally one day got tired of me not responding to calls, and it was a rainy day. And I was just, like me and the Hallie are just kind of ensconced in the flat. And she's like, yeah, it's me. And I would like look through the peephole. She goes, yeah, I'm here. You got to open the door. I know you're there. So open the door. And she was like, I bought you a cover for the buggy. She bought me like the plastic thing. She was like, Hallie, I was like, girl, it's raining. We can't go to the park. She's like, if you don't take the baby to the park when it's raining, you'll never go to the park. Like this is London. It's going to be raining all the time. Get your butt up. I know you're sad. I know you're lonely. Let's go. Like she goes, I brought you a coffee. Let's move. Like, and I'll never forget that. She's my girl to this day. And thank goodness for her, thank goodness for her. And as her daughter just got into university, Hallie just got into university. And I told her, I texted her, I was like, are we gonna get Fairy Rose? Because Fairy Rose was the jobbing actress that would work all the kids like parties. Like she was actually great. She was the world's best freaking Fairy Rose. And I was like, do you think the girls would be annoyed if we had Fairy Rose at the graduation? Like at the graduation party? She goes, swear to God, when you guys come to London, we're going next summer. She goes, let's just have Fairy Rose show up wherever we are to like entertain the girls. But even at the time, because y'all know, y'all can always depend on me to make it sad, like like memories. I'm glad we're talking about this because I haven't, I'm like, that's right. James and Sangeeta, like it was not big. It wasn't a huge community. I felt really alone and like isolated, but those were the spirits and the energy that, thank goodness, I had them along, like along the journey.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. I don't think it made it sad. I think that, I'm sorry that you're sad, or you were sad. And I think it's important for people to hear that there are going to be times when you feel alone. It's not all the 4 of us always. We didn't have each other. Well, Ariana has us when her baby is a baby. But we're on different paths. So also maybe not finding the person who's also got an 18-month-old. Like maybe that doesn't need to be your first requirement because our children are people too. 2 18-month-olds aren't going to be exactly the same. But I was, when you brought that up, that Sangeeta came to your door and was basically like, we're friends, you're getting out of here. If you feel that impulse, go ahead and act on it. What's the worst that can happen? Someone says no. We're moms. We're going to deal with that all the time. We're going to be the ones saying no. But when you feel like you should reach out to somebody, like maybe there's a reason. And look, now this is a lifelong friendship for you. So that's a beautiful lesson in there.
Absolutely. And there's something in there too about like, I think when we're talking about these villages that we're making is that one, size doesn't matter. Like it doesn't have to be that big. Sometimes all we need is like that one person, right? And it doesn't have to be that same one person for forever. But also just finding these people that like accept us where we are. Like, you're sad right now? Okay, I see that. What can I do, right? Like, I'm not going to try to change you. I'm not going to try to like sugarcoat this for you. I just want to like be here for you right here, right now, whatever that looks like. I think that's so beautiful. I'm so glad you found that and that you had that when you needed that, Q. That's so beautiful.
Oh, and something else about loneliness. So I'm going to bring us back down to when you're doing things differently from your family, like we talked about recently, coming out of the closet of the broom closet, or when our children are really different, like special needs children, we don't have somebody else, our parents don't understand, or we're trying to raise our children in a different way. So like my dad says, they can have new reasons to go to therapy, not the same old boring ones for generations. We don't have the support. And maybe even if you're not, we don't necessarily have the support from our families. And so that can feel very isolating too. And just knowing that there are other people also trying to make a difference and do things differently can be really reassuring, even if they're not trying to make things different in the same way.
That part, that's been actually, when I say it, the not using just culturally for me, there was a lot of just everything was every interaction with you as a child was just annoyed, parents. And, and I know parents were working, they're stressed, they've come through decades of oppression and racism. And sometimes there wasn't room or space, or they didn't know how to kind of in a nurturing or loving way. So for me, I just remember making real peace with, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to, being the good Black parent, which was kind of what I thought it was, which is everything is, you better do this, you da-da-da-da. Actually, a lot of it was stereotypes, and a lot of this stuff is just comes, it's just from slavery. And I remember thinking to myself, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm just too tenderhearted. I'm just too soft-hearted. I basically want to just chew on them. They're delicious. I'm in love with them. They're my little honey bunnies. And I don't have it in me to be yelling and screaming and hollering at people. I'm a Leo. So yeah, I can be real extra and dramatic. But, and I was terrified of that, Karen, doing it differently than my family did it, because I thought it was gonna, turn into the criticizing me for all the things actually that were really magical about me, that I am sensitive, I am an empath, I am a clairsentient, I can feel all this stuff. So it's heavy, it's heavy on me. And a lot of that was, oh my God, Halleck's just being sensitive and crying again. It wasn't difficult to break that pattern, but it was difficult to share what I was doing. I'm yeah, no, I'm not hitting my girls. I was my girls aren't going to be afraid of me. Now, are they cheeky sometimes? And sometimes do they, they're walking that razor's edge of being funny and disrespectful. And when that happens, do I have to correct and be wait a second, what's with this tone? Who are you talking to? Who do you think you're talking to, Miss It, just because you're 5'8"? Sit down, sit down someplace. But I'm yeah, but I'm not, I'm not doing that. I'm not hitting, I'm not hitting my kid. And thank God, even in, because I consider, as I'm writing my list here, my sister is on this, she's on this path with me, and we're both, and even though at first I know she was I don't know about this Halleck. Now I really feel we're kind of, having some, is a convergence, coming together on this, and how, when you make your children afraid, and when they're worried about, you threatening them, or if these grades are bad, or if you do this or do that, all of a sudden, hell is going to rain down on you. That's when kids become sneaky, and they, and they keep things from you, and we remember what that was like, and we don't want to do it. And so even, you're right, Karen, even when you do it differently, every now and then still someone may still come along with you, and you've got you've got a companion along this new little branch of the path, right, that splits off. And thank God I have that with my sister, because we're yeah, we want to get to know who these freaking kids are. I don't want automatons, which is basically what I was growing up. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Mm-mm. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Ballet class, book, school. You couldn't talk about, boys, or what you're interested in, or what made your heart soar and fly. And I was yeah, I don't want that, because I want to know these kids. What they're not going to be able to say is that mommy doesn't know me or understand me, or doesn't accept me, right, for who I am and where I'm going to go. Because I know we're gonna hit some, what? I didn't know that, or I didn't expect that. I know that's coming, and I want to set the stage for that. So that is a challenge. But, even as I look at this list, I'm like, yep, right. I even had somebody come along with me there. And then you find that there are other people like this. Like there are whole communities online that are like, yeah, Black parents that don't hit our kids, like, which is crazy. There needs to be a community around not slapping our kids around. But that's how revolutionary it is, like, for us to do it differently, because that's the way we've been taught and culture. Like, we just kind of perpetuate this. Yeah. And then I slapped the hell out of him. And then you remember that time mama beat the hell out of it, so I'm so glad we're kind of coming out of this, and that when you start doing, when you have the courage to step out, to do things differently, it's amazing what you can bring in, like what you can attract and what you end up, finding. We're not really alone there.
You wouldn't know if you didn't practice that out loud.
Wow, that out loud piece. Oh, that one's the clutch one. Out loud, like admitting it out loud to yourself, to others, owning it, claiming it, speaking it into existence. Out loud is so powerful. Wow. Thank you. I missed that connection until just now. That makes all the difference. It makes it real.
Out loud can feel very vulnerable, especially if you're doing things differently than the way that you have been taught to do things, or the way that maybe the spaces that you're in, are telling you should do things. But I think we're all testaments of that. Like when you're able to do that, like, and you trust yourself, right? Because I truly believe that our children choose us for, who knows why, but, I think there is some serious magic in that, in being, finding the courage or the bravery to just be like, no, I get that maybe the people around me right now don't understand this, but this is how I'm going to do it. And just like you said, like you will find those people. Like, don't be scared to do the things that you think are in your child's best interest, or in your best interest even. There are people out there that feel the same way that you do. And the internet, is an amazing place to find them. The internet is so ridiculous sometimes, but I have met the most amazing people thanks to the internet as well. So it's just, we've got tools for everything. Some other time we can get into like the connections of like, I think, no, I'm not going to be able to say where it comes from, but just that thought that like we are connected. We're all connected, but like the people that are meant for you, right? Like we find each other. I have so many examples of just the way that I have found, the way that people have come into my life. I truly believe that there is this force. There's some kind of kismet, beautiful connection, spider magic happening all the time.
Yes. And I know I say this in an early episode, but Taylor Swift has a song about this and it's called Invisible String. And I think it comes out of the Chinese culture, thinking that like there's this invisible string that, yeah.
I love that.
So beautiful.
Yeah. It's totally real.
I was thinking, can I ask you guys a question about that? I was thinking, like, what is the tarot card that represents like our village? Like, and I was, so if y'all saw me shuffling and looking, I was like, what is it? And I got some different cards, and of course, the 6 of Cups is always cool. Like getting together, like when, Ariana was saying, like, this is, how do I determine if you're coffee worthy? Like, are we going to be able to get this coffee together like once or twice a week? So I thought 3 of Cups, but then I thought, like, even when we think our community or our village is like really small, I thought like maybe the 9 of Cups, right? Like these are the emotional attachments and relationships that we build and that we collect and that we're proud of. So that's the one I think. I feel like I don't, always have to assign a card, but that's the one I think might best represent that for me, I think. This has been another amazing conversation.
Please
Subscribe, follow, favorite, and share with the moms or maternally curious folks in your life to be with us right from the beginning and never miss a thing. Find out how to connect with each of us individually and sign up for our mailing list to get instant access to our 5 favorite spells for the family. Just sashay over to magicalmotherhood.club.